Our next guest on Heart of the Hutch is a ninja warrior of change. Before coming here, she worked at a large company as a senior program manager where her team performed complex relocation projects for a huge workforce. She's also run her own company where she relocated single-family households, all with the goal of making corporate relocations easier. I could go on because your resume is so long, but suffice to say, Fred Hutch's Move, Add, Change program manager has been in the business of change since the mid-1990s. Eden Maloney, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
So a couple years ago, our director announced we were going to take Fred Hutch Cancer Research Center and the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance and do a merge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people, when they heard his announcement, could intellectually agree that change needed to happen, and they kind of bought his argument, right? But then there's that day when your workspace is being relocated to another place, another, not just another cubicle, but maybe another building on the other side of campus. So how's that going now that the rubber is meeting the road at Fred Hutch?
Fred Hutch will still be dealing with a change on a lot of fronts for a while. My team, the MAC team or Move, Add, Change team, really gets to the nuts and bolts, the actual physical movement of things around and how we can support that. The most interesting thing about it for me is the puzzle solving. You know, how do we do this efficiently? How do we minimize the impact? If you raise your hand in a room of 1,000 people and you ask, who likes moving? Nobody's going to raise their hand with me, right?
It's one of the worst things. Like my best friend calls and says, hey, can you help me move? I'm like, I think I'm getting...
Exactly. You don't like doing it yourself. You don't like the turn because it's an extra effort on top of your normal daily lives. And in the case of all the important work of the folks at Fred Hutch are doing, they got a lot to work to focus on outside of then getting ready for a move. So that's hopefully the goal of the MAC team is to help alleviate that.
By the time this move is done, how many people on the Fred Hutch campus, roughly, will you have moved?
It's more than hundreds, but hopefully not getting too far into the thousands. But that's why, we're having the conversations about it has been going on for a while, and it's really part of kind of one of the next steps in the merger, right? It's just kind of relocating people to make what they do for Fred Hutch more efficient.
So you've been doing this long enough that you've probably seen some good moves and a couple bad moves.
Oh, yes. I have stories.
What does a good move look like?
If people don't know what's happening, that's what creates that additional stress and churn that they experience.
Anxiety,
so it's really making sure you have a clear plan and that you communicate that and you provide as many status updates that are needed so that you kind of let people's minds rest a little easier.
Let's take a step back from Fred Hutch and just talk about change. I read an article by Erica Anderson in the Harvard Business Review in which she talks about the difficulty of change, and she says we should blame our ancestry, blame our history.
Yeah.
She said, think about it. Before about 150 years ago, all human experience was pretty much the same. You grew up in your parents' house. You ended up doing what they did, and you believed what your parents believed because you weren't exposed to the wider world for thousands of years. When change came, it was disruptive and sometimes dangerous.
Yeah.
And she says that became hard-coded almost into our DNA, and it is why we struggle with change.
Yeah.
Does that match with what you've experienced?
Oh, I think so, and especially if you don't choose the change. Some of the requests that we have that actually changes where people work come from the people who are working in that space already. So they're happy to see the new thing. But when you're saying, this is coming and you didn't choose it, that's where a lot of the resistance comes from. People want to know the why behind what you're asking them to do, right?
That sounds hard, yeah.
Yeah. Challenge as a leader is to know what the why is and to be able to share that, because I think you get better engagement and acceptance of the change.
So you must have a lot of meetings with management people once a change has sort of been announced, and then you have to figure out how to make it happen. Yeah. You have to arm yourself with the why, with the how, with the when.
People are going to have questions, and we got to be able to answer them as we go through this.
As you're moving.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears for a second. Looking through your resume, I saw that there's another interest that you're involved with, public speaking.
Yes.
So you've taken our two darkest fears, right?
Yeah.
Change and public speaking.
There you go.
And made a career out of it. How did you do that? Tell me about that.
That's amazing. So when I first started with Toastmasters back, I don't know, almost 20 years ago now, the impetus was because in my role as managing these moves, I would have to have conversations with large groups of people and say,
all the pieces are
here's
starting.
how you get together, here's what you need to know about this move. So standing up in front of a group and conveying a plan and being able to do that clearly, Toastmasters really helped.
Just one last request. Take it easy on my teammates as they box up their stuff and move to a whole other building.
Absolutely. We will be as careful as we can with that for you all. And it's not just me. It's the entire MAC team. It's the entire space planning team. It's a good chunk of the facilities team that are going to be supporting these move efforts coming up. So, which is also something that's really great about doing this type of work. I don't do it alone. There's always been a team, and it's no different here at Fred Hutch.
It's a great place to end. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks.